What happens when a franchise's entire future hinges on a knee that keeps failing? Welcome back to the channel. I need you to understand something right from the jump. What I'm about to dissect isn't your typical injury update or roster speculation. This is a full-blown organizational crisis that's unfolding in real time, and the reverberations will echo through Mercedes-Benz Stadium for years to come. Michael Penix Jr. requires complete ACL reconstruction surgery. Not a scope, not a minor repair. Full reconstruction. The timeline? A minimum 9-month recovery window. Translation: if every single thing goes perfectly, and I mean perfectly, we're looking at an August return at the absolute earliest. But here's the reality check that should send chills down every Falcons fan's spine. This marks Penix's 5th season-ending injury in 8 years. 5th in 8 years. We're not discussing an unfortunate accident or bad luck anymore. This is a documented pattern of durability concerns at the highest competitive level. When you're constructing a championship-caliber franchise around a quarterback, availability isn't just a bonus, it's the foundational requirement. You can possess the strongest arm, the quickest release, the most accurate deep ball in the league, but if you're watching from the sideline in street clothes, none of those attributes matter. Penix consulted with elite medical specialists across the country, and the verdict came back unanimous. Full ACL reconstruction is medically necessary. This wasn't a situation where doctors offered different opinions or treatment paths. This was your knee is structurally compromised and requires major surgical intervention diagnosis. Here's where the organizational dysfunction becomes glaringly obvious. Immediately following the Penix injury announcement, head coach Raheem Morris faced the media. When directly questioned about whether the Falcons would need to alter their quarterback strategy for the offseason, Morris delivered the most politically calculated, commitment-free response imaginable. He'd cross that bridge when he comes to it. Let me decode that corporate speak for you. Raheem Morris understands he won't be the person making that decision because Raheem Morris won't be coaching the Atlanta Falcons next season. I'm not engaging in hyperbole or hot-take journalism here. I'm confident enough in this prediction to put significant money behind it. Morris has demonstrated throughout this campaign that he's not the long-term solution, and the front office recognizes this reality. When he deflects on quarterback planning, he's essentially acknowledging he won't be present to implement whatever strategy gets developed. But even after Morris's inevitable departure, and it is inevitable, the incoming head coach will immediately demand comprehensive answers about the quarterback situation. They'll require options, backup plans, contingency strategies, and most critically, they'll want a signal caller they can actually depend on to be available for 17 regular season games. The Falcons didn't hesitate. They immediately signed Easton Stick, formerly with the Los Angeles Chargers, not Tampa Bay, that was an error in the source material, and elevated him to the active roster. Kyle Trask was added to the practice squad. Let's establish absolute clarity about what these transactions represent. Panic moves. These aren't franchise-altering acquisitions. These aren't calculated investments in the future. We need functional human beings who can theoretically execute a forward pass signings. Here's your current quarterback depth chart, and I want you to genuinely assess whether this inspires any confidence whatsoever. QB1, Kirk Cousins QB2, Easton Stick QB3, Michael Penix Jr. injured, unavailable if Cousins goes down, and at 37 years old entering his 38th year. That's hardly an improbable scenario. Easton Stick becomes your starting quarterback. Easton Stick, who has appeared in exactly 7 games across his entire NFL career. He's a career backup at best, more realistically a third-string quarterback on most rosters. He'll collect paychecks bouncing around the league for a decade, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that career trajectory, but he's absolutely not someone you want orchestrating your playoff push. Kyle Trask offers even less certainty. Yes, he was a second-round selection. Yes, he played collegiate football with Kyle Pitts, creating a connection to Atlanta. But Trask has demonstrated nothing at the professional level suggesting he's anything beyond emergency depth. Years ago, evaluators thought he might develop into a bridge quarterback or low-tier starter. That projection hasn't materialized, and at this stage of his career, transformation seems unlikely. This is where the narrative takes its most compelling turn. Kirk Cousins is now entering the most consequential stretch of his Falcons tenure, and potentially his entire career as an NFL starter. These remaining games aren't merely about playoff positioning or salvaging a disappointing season. This is Kirk's audition for next year and possibly for the remainder of his career as a starting quarterback in this league. Cousins has 2 years remaining on his Atlanta contract. But here's the critical contractual detail everyone must understand. He possesses an opt-out clause after the season. That means both parties face significant decisions. The Falcons can designate Cousins for a post-June first cut and save $35 million in cap space. $35 million. That's not insignificant money. That's franchise-altering capital that could be redirected toward constructing a younger, more sustainable roster foundation. But here's the organizational dilemma. With Penix's status now a massive uncertainty, do you genuinely want to move on from the one quarterback on your roster who's proven he can start and produce at the NFL level? Even if Cousins hasn't been spectacular this season, and let's be brutally honest, he remains the most reliable option available. The problem is that most reliable becomes a relative term when discussing a 37-year-old quarterback displaying clear signs of decline. These next few games become Cousins' showcase. If he performs well, if he demonstrates he can still command an offense and deliver the throws that matter in critical moments, perhaps, just perhaps, the Falcons consider retaining him for another year while Penix recovers. But if he continues struggling, if the interceptions keep accumulating and the offense continues sputtering, that $35 million cap savings starts looking extraordinarily attractive. Let's hypothetically say the Falcons determine they need to add a veteran quarterback through free agency. What are their realistic options? Prepare yourself, because this landscape is depressing. The top projected free agent quarterbacks include Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones, and Joe Flacco. Examine that list carefully and try not to despair. Rodgers and Flacco are ancient by football standards. Rodgers will be 42. Flacco will be 41. Are those genuinely the quarterbacks you want building your franchise around? Russell Wilson is completely washed. A shell of the quarterback who once terrorized defenses in Seattle. His mobility is gone, his decision-making has deteriorated, and his contract demands remain absurdly high. Zach Wilson possesses all the physical talent imaginable, but cannot execute fundamental plays consistently. His mental processing and decision-making have been catastrophically poor throughout his career. Daniel Jones might represent the most intriguing option, but there's virtually zero chance the Falcons land him. Indianapolis is positioned to make him an offer he cannot refuse. He's already developing chemistry with Shane Steichen, and the Colts possess the cap space and organizational stability to secure him long-term. If you're relying on free agency to solve your quarterback problems, you're examining a collection of has-beens, never-weres, and question marks. Not exactly inspiring. This brings us to the draft, which is where the Falcons will likely and should focus their quarterback search. The significant problem: Atlanta doesn't possess a first-round pick this year. That selection belongs to the Los Angeles Rams thanks to previous trade machinations. So we're examining second and third-round options, which means we're discussing developmental prospects, not day-one starters. Jalen Milroe. This is a high-ceiling project. Milroe isn't ready to start immediately. He might not be ready by week 8. He's raw, requiring extensive coaching and time to develop. But under the right coaching staff with the appropriate system, Milroe possesses the physical tools to eventually become a legitimate starter. The operative word, eventually. If the Falcons draft Milroe, they're playing the long game. Jackson Dart. Probably the best pure passer in this group. Dart has excellent quick game mechanics and can execute all the short and intermediate throws required in modern NFL offenses. The concern emerges when the pocket collapses, his mechanics get sloppy under pressure. And in the NFL, you're under pressure constantly. Can he develop the pocket presence and improvisational skills necessary to succeed? That's the million-dollar question. Cade Klubnik. If you want a deep ball specialist, Klubnik is your target. He might possess the best vertical throw in this entire draft class, which is valuable in an offensive system emphasizing field stretching. But Klubnik is heavily reliant on his first read, and he's lean. We're discussing 6 feet, 2 inches, 210 pounds. That's undersized for an NFL quarterback, especially one absorbing hits. Can he add functional weight without sacrificing mobility? Can he learn to progress through his reads? These developmental questions require time to answer. None of these prospects are perfect. None are guaranteed successes. But that's the reality when selecting in the second or third round. You're searching for diamonds in the rough, players with upside who can be developed into starters with proper coaching and system fit. Here's what Falcons fans must understand and accept. Next season will not be smooth. It's going to be messy, controversial, and probably frustrating. You're examining a scenario where Penix Jr. receives 0 preseason work, misses all of training camp, and might not be ready until week 2 or 3 of the regular season. And when he does return, he'll need time shaking off the rust. We're discussing 5 or 6 weeks before he approaches his normal level. And his normal level this season has been merely adequate. So, what's the solution? Do you start Kirk Cousins while Penix recovers? What happens if Cousins gets injured? He's 37 going on 38, playing a violent sport where injuries are inevitable. Do you throw a rookie into fire? Do you trust Easton's stick to maintain competitiveness? There's no satisfactory answer here. Every option carries significant risk and uncertainty. This is the reality of having an injury-prone quarterback with a documented history of season-ending injuries. The pattern is established and won't disappear. Now, I understand you're thinking, how can there possibly be optimism in this situation? Here's why. This is rock bottom. There's nowhere to go but up. The Falcons will move on from Raheem Morris. They'll bring in a new head coach, perhaps Brian Flores, maybe Brian Dable, possibly Matt LaFleur, maybe someone we're not even considering yet. That new coach will bring fresh ideas, a new system, and different expectations. They might draft a quarterback who develops into something special. They might discover a way to maximize Kirk Cousins for one more season while building for the future. They might get fortunate with an unexpected free agent signing. The point is change is coming, and change creates opportunity. The bar has been set so low that any improvement will feel like progress. The roster possesses talent. There are pieces to build around. The defense has shown flashes. The receiving core, when healthy, can be dynamic. This isn't a talentless team. It's a team that's been poorly coached and poorly managed at the quarterback position. With new leadership and a clear plan at the most important position in sports, the Falcons can turn this around faster than people anticipate. Will it happen overnight? No. Will next season be a Super Bowl run? Probably not. But can they build something sustainable that gives fans genuine hope for the future? Absolutely. So here's the question every Falcons fan needs to be asking. Should Atlanta draft a quarterback this offseason? 24 hours ago, I would have said no. The situation has fundamentally changed. New information demands new conclusions. With Penix facing a minimum 9-month recovery with 0 preseason or training camp work, with his injury history raising serious durability concerns, the Falcons cannot afford entering next season without a contingency plan. They need to draft a quarterback, not in the first round because they don't possess that pick, but in the second or third round. They need to select a developmental prospect who can be groomed as insurance. If Penix returns healthy and performs well, excellent. You have valuable depth and a potential trade asset. If Penix struggles or gets injured again, you have a young quarterback who's been learning the system and is ready to step in. This isn't about abandoning Penix. This is about being realistic about the situation and protecting the franchise from worst-case scenarios. Professional sports organizations that succeed are those that plan for contingencies, that don't place all their eggs in one basket, that build depth and competition at every position, especially quarterback. The Falcons have been burned by poor quarterback planning before. They cannot afford repeating the same mistake. The next few months will determine whether this franchise spends the next 5 years competing for championships or wandering in the wilderness of mediocrity. The decisions are that important, and the stakes are that high. What do you think the Falcons should do? Draft a quarterback? Roll with Penix and hope for the best? Try to make one more run with Kirk Cousins? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear what you're thinking about this absolute organizational crisis. And if you made it this far, smash that like button and subscribe, because we're going to be covering every twist and turn of the story as it develops. The Falcons' future is being written right now, and you don't want to miss a single chapter of this unfolding drama.